So, first I'm going to ask you if you had any questions about the previous homework when you had to just imagine the notes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had a little struggle with this I mentioned before. For some reason, when I imagine, and while I imagine, I do this movement with my hand. And when I did this, for some reason, maybe it's because the etymology of the words higher and lower, my hand is tend to be go not like this, but so for me it was associated with the note is higher, then it should rise, and is lower, and it should descend.
And also sometimes higher pitch can provoke that, just the idea that the pitch is higher.
Yes, the word high, maybe it's just about this meaning. And I had this struggle, but I managed to overcome it. And I'd like to share how I managed to overcome this. Not just a task for shifting my hand, but task for expressing the idea, so symbolic movement. And I realized that it requires less brain power, and it somehow brings more this healthy tension to my hands. So it's like they do this automatic. So
if I understood correctly, before even imagining the notes, you first go with actual movement of your hand through the sound movement of each note. Then that creates some kind of a blueprint, a pattern sensation in your mind. And then when you look at the score next time and you're imagining the notes, you include that memory of the movement that you did. You don't actually move your hand when you're imagining the notes, but the memory of the movement helps you to stay in horizontal imagination line.
yes, I think I don't even think about the hand movements. I think only about imagination of the sound quality.
But it just helps automatically. Somehow.
Yes, it goes automatically.
Okay.
So, and hand is relaxed, and I just don't even control it. So, but the word that helped me so much is the symbolic movement. It's like a finger language. I just expressing something with my hands.
Yeah, well, pretty much what we do with our wrist when we're expressing movement in 2D. Or 3D as well.
So for other questions, I don't have any. Maybe just I found that my imagination is developing because I started systematically practicing it, and now I can look at the score, and at least a simple score with maybe just two voices, because when it goes to more than two voices, even 3 or 4, it's still difficult. I try to imagine something like this. And even that is already not so easy to imagine all this texture.
Yes, polyphonic texture is very advanced. I always suggest to start with mono, just 2 voices, and then you go to chords, because chords are the hardest one to imagine, for obvious reasons. Okay, so
but it's possible.
Like
I believe it's possible.
Okay, but what I would like you also to suggest, to invite you, is to take it, even if you think, oh, I got the concept, it's very important that you stay with systematic training on very simple material. Don't jump into what you just introduced, into that prelude, and then as a result you will feel, oh, it's overwhelming. No, it's just you're not ready. You skip the grades. You were in grade 1, and you have to be in grade 1 for a few weeks before you go in grade 9, yeah? So, so for next time, also for the next lesson, for another week, I advise you to go through other simple pieces by Schaefer, using that exact method, working with just 4 bars at a time. It's very important that you're not spreading your focus. You actually narrow it, and then you just hit it and hit it and hit it and hit it, and it just goes deeper and deeper, because our goal is to bring it to subconscious, to let that sink deep into subconscious, and it's repetition. That's the key. to any learning. So small parts, lots of repetitions, and follow very simple steps. So also the point of that is that you don't feel that it's hard. And eventually by just doing all of this, you will never feel it's hard. You will just feel that you're progressing. And that's the whole idea behind this system.
I'm just on the edge of the comfort zone.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously at some point, even when with a simple material, if you spend half an hour doing it, you will feel your brain is on fire. So it's also about the quantity, not just the quality. All right. If you didn't have, did you have more questions about that?
About imagination.
Were you listening to Mahler?
Yeah, and
Were
even
you using those strings?
yes, I even decided to once again listen to the whole symphony, and yes, I listened to Mahler, and of course this is a good example of this. I said the taste of this violin.
And also, actually, I forgot to mention last time. Also, the reason we choose, I've chosen that part. Most of the time, it's just soft. Yeah, it's a very soft and gentle texture, and that's important because that's the first touch you want to use when you approach the keyboard. You don't want to use any loud dynamics to avoid any attack that you're not ready with your mind yet, because you have not explored dynamics. So we always need to start with soft dynamics of string instruments. So that's important. All right, it's a big topic in front of us, elbow motion today, so let's jump into it, okay?
Okay.
Guess my first question, why do we need it? All right, so there are two very clear areas that are going to be improved when we use elbow motion. Can you name these areas?
I guess it's more fast preparation for large leaps when you do that. When you do large leap, your elbow it moves first, and
what do
your
we achieve
hand,
by that? It's more accurate. So our leaps, jumps become more accurate. So we're able to control it better. Okay, so accuracy in leaps. What else? What's the second thing?
And as a result, you avoid this tension, and when you don't know. So I like this metaphor. When you don't use elbow motion properly, your hand is like ahead of the hand, ahead of the arm. I like this metaphor. So instead of doing this, you move elbow to prevent this, to keep your hands relaxed.
Okay, to be more specific, second area that is improved, it tremendously helps our wrist to avoid tension. And there are two things that influence this. First is, of course, what you said. If we're moving, so I show here. Don't know, can you see me here? Okay, so yes, so if we execute any jump with the effort of our hand, meaning this part, so I don't know, we use this part to prepare for position. We use this hand as the eyes, right? So in this case, we will hold tension. Where if we just use elbow, then that naturally close the hand and let the hand just land where it needs to be. So it's a difference between playing this and this.
So the hand is in closed position all the time.
Yeah, the hand is in closed position because it's relaxed. Elbow is doing the job, not the hand. So this is one. And second one is when we need to play, we think it's one position, but it's actually not. So for example, we're playing here. When we use elbow, we avoid keeping our wrist in open position. because that's another reason why we start accumulating tension in the hand. So, for example, instead of playing this way, which you would say, well, I can reach octave, so I can, just spread my hand. Much better to use elbow. And as a result, you see, I'm playing the same notes, but my hand is in close position. Instead of... And then you also have a tendency to play with fingers, and then you feel stiffness here, and you're also not controlling really anything that you play. So you're overworking with your fingers. Yeah. You know this echo effect. Yeah, I know. I suffer with that as well. When I see like bad performance, I was like, oh my god, it gets so impassive. Yes. Okay, so 2 reasons, right? What are the elements of elbow motion? There are 2 as well. I like numbers. That makes it more specific.
So basically, when we do this elbow motion, we started from this armpit.
I really loved about the armpit. I never actually mentioned it, but it definitely gives a very concrete difference between just like moving elbow and actually moving elbow the way I would like it to be moved. So first of all, when we make the movement of elbow, we're making it in a fast, light way. There is no pressure. It goes just with a relaxed hand and with big amplitude. And second, and the most important, is that on the note, and we're going to call this a position change note, which we'll talk about in the future. On that note where you move your elbow, you have to release that key very quickly. For example, you're playing the 6, or even let's make 7, with finger 2, 5.
Mm-hmm.
So this is your position change note, and you move your elbow very quickly, but if you're still holding on to this note, there is only as much as you can move. You can strain your movement. So it's important, and you saw it in the book, there is a cross, right? So cross represents the point where you release the key, which is pretty much instantaneously. So every time we move elbow, that note has to be released right away, which will also eliminate a kind of like spontaneous stretching, because it's like you really want to reach that B, you move your elbow, but you're still stretching because you're holding on to that C. So, and of course, when people ask me, so if we have pedal, most of the time we have pedal. And that's actually why it's much harder to play fugues or Baroque music, especially with fugues, because we need to hold on to so many, the stretches are really hard to escape in fugues. That's why it's so dangerous for your hands. People say like, Liszt is dangerous. Nah, you have lots of pedal. You can release so many notes, you can close your hand, where in Bach, unless you know how to use a technique of technical pedal, техническая pedal, where you just give these little amounts, drops that would prolong the sound that you let go, it's really hard to play fugues. So it's like, for me, I don't play fugues, because it's like, I think I'm not ready for those, It's the top, like in terms of imagining 4 voices at the same time simultaneously, feeling, different movement energy in each voice, and technically as well. It's not easy. So, to summarize 2 things, light, fast movement with big amplitude and releasing the key right away as you play the note. Okay. Now that we clarified that, let's jump right into the exercise on page 41 and 42. So what I would like you to do, let's put that away. What I would like you to do is basically, first of all, look at the picture on page 41 and tell me if you had any questions regarding those signs. I want to explain the movement of elbow when you make the roll or double swing. If you notice the proportion of the roller swing is not always the same. So it goes like this long line before you actually made the loop, and then you exit. And this long line is what you do together with your elbow, and then at the end you make the loop with your hand. And the same with double swing. It's like a W, but as you can see, the first U in that W is much longer, and again it's because elbow will move together. And then the small second U is much smaller, and it's just to play the note with the wrist movement down.
Well, the main thing to consider is when we do this swing as well as when we do contrary motion. So if we have contrary motion, it's double swing. Mm-hmm. And if we go in the same direction, we do this roll. So yes, but this notice about the length of this little U's.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I now I'm paying attention to this.
Yes, we're gonna practice the next page for U39 together. And so first, when it says on the tabletop, I will just like you to close your.
I don't have this.
But you have the lead, no?
No, I don't have this. Well, we can do this on the keyboard. I can make this silently.
Silently, exactly. That will do. Exactly. So the first thing, practice on the tabletop with open eyes. Look at the wrist elbow image shown on the previous page while moving your wrist and elbows. So the goal, why do we start like this, is so you will not be focused or distracted by any chance, like by the notes. You know, it's just almost like take away this idea that you actually need to play something and focusing fully just on the image and using your arm as a brush, right? And all you do, you just want to kind of like imitate the painting that is in front of you, right? So you can start. Another thing, you have to play with the same finger.
Mm-hmm.
Again, why? To create the illusion of position change, right? Because sometimes you can play the fifth with 1-5 and it's fine. There is no position change. But if you play with 3-3, that's a big leap. And I also mentioned that it's better to start with a bigger intervals because then it makes it easier for you to feel that movement of your hand.
Okay, let's say octave. Look at this.
So what are you doing right now? You're making the same direction, but you're not making the loop. So what I want to see is this. Let's say I was pretend there's no sound. Okay. Thumb, and then I'm following the picture here. So I release, I move my elbow, and then I have to move to make that loop with my wrist before I'm playing the note. And you see that little arrow? When I press the key, I move my wrist to the right. So it's like this. Pay attention where I've written that loop. Again, it's right before you press the key. What you're trying to do, you're kind of trying to make this loop halfway. So move your elbow, and then you know you're going to play something here. And in that area, you make the loop and you play the note.
Okay.
Try to now, okay, you got you remember the picture. Now do the same, but now look at your elbow, and that will also help you to just control it better, the way it moves and how far it moves.
So I'm looking
with
at my
your
elbow.
eyes. Yeah, with your eyes. Well done.
Well, yes, this is the level of control is different, so that's why it's easier. I just concentrated on this thing.
Exactly. Now practice on the tabletop with closed eyes. Paint with your elbow, creating strokes like an artist with his brush. Forget that you have fingers or keys. So now close your eyes and just really focusing on the sensations that you feel when you execute this movement. So when you land on the second note, make sure that you make the wrist motion to the right enough. Right, so you close your eyes and you just focus on your inner sensations.
I close.
Good. The left hand. So the left hand is not really controlling the roll right before pressing to the second note. Just make sure you make a very clear
Yes,
roll.
I feel it's more difficult for me to control on the left hand.
Just focus. Okay, so this is good when you pay attention. So we're done. Open eyes, close eyes. Now practice on the piano. Here we can bring the volume up. Oh, that's an interesting point here. So yes, you need to keep your hand light, but when you're actually playing it on the piano, make sure that when you make this movement of your elbow, your fingers always slide across the keys, so they're not in any way exactly. So you can almost hear that, sound. So you don't go like this, because as soon as you do this, that means there is fixation. That means your hand is not relaxed. So make sure that it glides. Wrist movement better on the second note.
I just play random notes. I don't precisely aiming.
Yeah, from here. Roll on your wrist. Yes, this is good.
Yes.
All right. So we're halfway through. Now we're gonna make the same movement again. It's going to be same direction notes. Now it's gonna be left. So it's gonna be inwards. So keep the same corrections in mind that we were talking about. Remember, and we're gonna start right from the beginning. So we're gonna pretend that we're playing on the table again. Open your eyes and look at the image and just follow with your hand the image. So you release the key. You move your elbow, and then right before playing the second note, you make the roll, and make sure that when you touch the second note, you move your wrist to the left.
I play on silent keyboard.
Yeah, you're doing, tabletop.
And this movement to torso, okay, towards.
This is very good. Let's now close the eyes, and now just do the same, but focus on your inner sensations.
Okay.
And obviously when you practice at home, you can practice with different finger, from 1 to 1, 5 to 5, and also with different distance. And like I said, start with the bigger one, and at the end, as a mastery, go to very small ones. Let's just try the small one just to experience it. So when you move to a smaller distance, you have to remember that we're still moving elbow in the same fast movement with big amplitude, because sometimes in the past students would assume that if we're moving in a smaller distance, then we need to also kind of gradate that distance in our elbow, so we're kind of moving elbow less. No, so even if we move like within the fifth, we need to move elbow a lot still. The same principle, but we just kind of stop. But the intention that it should go that yes, we're moving elbow, we're not just shifting it a little bit. That's important to remember. Let's go to opposite direction, where we're going to use double swing. So if one note is, let's say, to the left, and the second note is to the right. So let's talk about where to release the key. in opposite motion. So when in similar motion, where we would let go of the note right away as soon as we move elbow, here you just need to make sure that first you make the initial movement of the wrist to the left, and then when you start again, when you initiate elbow motion after that, then you release the key. So this is how it looks like. Tum. I let go the note, my first U, and my second small U, and I play the second note, and I move my wrist to the right. Very good.
This is pleasant to produce this kind of movements.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. It's so powerful. In a way, it's almost like most of work, hand, arm does it by itself, with gravity and with kind of like
inertia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Genius are thinking this. Okay.
Okay, let's see. Let's take a look at your left hand.
Okay.
Again, if you want, you can at some point look at your elbow just to make sure that. And also, always have this clear picture in your mind that the first U is very long and the second U is small right before that you press the key. Exactly. First U is like for your elbow and second U is for your wrist, yeah.
Good point.
Very good.
Right. Opposite directions.
Yes. Yeah, right. The same principle, so your fingertips should glide across the keyboard. Well done. Let's try the same with opposite. So inwards. First note to the right. Wrist movement. Initiate elbow motion. Let go of the note. And small U right before second note, and then wrist motion.
Okay.
Yeah. Left hand from bass up. So you see the difference is when you play the second note, your wrist is really going up, which is fine, but for this exercise, we really want to make sure that the wrist just goes to the right. So instead of doing this, you need to do this. Just keep it there. Again, the question why is so, our wrist would really express the sound motion that we will have in our mind in the future.
Yes.
That's about it. So that's the whole exercise.
What about hands together? Is it?
Do you want to try? Yes, you can try at home or now if you want.
Okay.
But just digest this whole exercise. So follow all those steps. Practice on the tabletop with open eyes, closed eyes, then on the keyboard. And the main thing is to overcome this idea that you need to play the notes with your fingers, because that will be in the way of free elbow motion. As soon as you start thinking about which note do I play, that's it. Your elbow motion you will lose it. You will lose.
Yes, it should be on background.
Freedom.
It's like you know what to do, and it's automatically doing.